Hello, this is David from the Young Folks, and I'm here today to talk about Jurassic World. So, I'm not the first person to do this. Allie did a review. I think there was a retrospective that was done. I'm sorry, I can't remember who did the other review, but I know it's out there. But today I'd like to talk about something different about the movie. So before I tell everyone what that is, I'd like to talk about what I think of the movie. So, Jurassic World was fine. It's certainly one of the better action movies to come out among some of the embarrassing ones of the last few years. And rest assured, it is definitely the best Jurassic Park sequel. Haven't seen all of The Lost World, but from what I've seen, it's boring. Seen Jurassic Park 3, it's a pointless and dumb movie. And I mean, the consensus on the Jurassic Park sequels are that they're bad. So I feel like this is certainly a step in the right direction. But this being said, while watching it, I kept getting this overarching feeling that inside of this all-right movie, there was a great movie. And maybe I'm just picking on Colin Trevorrow, the guy who directed it, the guy who did Safety Not Guaranteed. Maybe I'm just picking on him, but I can think of a few ways that this movie could have been better, or things it might have benefited from. So I'd like to talk about those things today. And without further ado, here are the 5 things that would have made Jurassic World a better film. Number 1, make it R or don't make it at all. So, the original Jurassic Parks are all PG-13. I understand that. I know the audience for this movie was probably from like 13 to 17-year-old teenagers and beyond. Actually, while watching it, I think this movie is a bit confused as to who its audience was. Because they seem to be throwing in some things for some littler kids, and then they throw in things that would make those same children shit their pants, screaming. But I get the sense that's kind of their audience. But when you think about it, in comparison to the original Jurassic Park, this movie's setup is very dark. I kind of respect it, actually, because in the first Jurassic Park movie, you get a bunch of people who their fields are specialized to help them on the island. That's why they were chosen. Sam Neill is a archaeologist. Goldblum is a conspiracy theorist. Laura Dern's a archaeologist as well. You got the poor lawyer. Oh my god. And then you got the kids. No one they haven't seen dinosaurs before, so this is obviously new to them and new to the audience. So when everything goes wrong, the stakes are very high. But when you compare it to Jurassic World, they're less high because even though a human life is a human life, there's only a few people on that island in Jurassic Park. In Jurassic World, everyone has become accustomed to dinosaurs. As Vincent D'Onofrio's character says, like, to a kid, a dinosaur is like an elephant now. So in this movie, the park is kind of like Disney World, and it gets a lot of people every year, but they need to keep doing new things to increase revenue. So they develop like this dinosaur, the Adenosaurus Rex, whatever it's called, and they make it of like pretty much the biggest and baddest DNA for dinosaurs and other animals they can. And when it escapes, you got to think about who's there. There's women, there's children, and they're all kind of used to dinosaurs. So everything is so much. The stakes are huge in this movie, and honestly, I feel like they were so in the middle on the execution of it. Now, I'm not asking for a movie with like kids' heads getting chopped off or like that's mean-spirited. That's not in the nature of Jurassic Park. That would be some weird dinosaur exploitation film. But I feel like with this kind of setup, they just didn't do enough. They needed to be rougher or just not do it at all, because in the scenes when like the dinosaurs come into the park and like start terrorizing the people there, you hear them screaming, you see them running, they're tripping. And there's a few dinosaurs like injure them, but like there's only like one person you really see get like eaten by a dinosaur, I think. And I feel like you didn't really need to increase the blood factor, but you need to increase the blood, like the badass factor. You need to make this movie feel, kind of make the stakes feel as high as they are. And I feel like they didn't like botch the plot, but they really did not go far enough that I think this movie was even pointless. There are plenty of other franchises you can go do things for. I just feel like if you have this kind of a plot and you're not going to use it to your full advantage, I just think you either make the movie rough or you don't make it at all. That's my opinion, at least. So, moving on to my next point. Give the film a singular focus on one group of characters and make the running time shorter. So, in this movie, the narrative's kind of cluttered. They try to do too much, I think. They focus on these kids who are in the movie, just like at the park. They focus on Bryce Dallas Howard, who's like their aunt, I think. They focus on Chris Pratt. They focus on B.D. Wong and his team. They focus on Vincent D'Onofrio. They focus on the people at the park. It's all over the place. And I feel like the kid characters are awful. I'm sorry. I know you gotta find relatable characters for the kids. They want to make it like the first movie. But I can't even tell you how many times I've seen those kid characters. They're boring. They're just awful. I don't like them at all. Maybe I'm just a cynic. But what bothered me about it was they keep flipping through all these characters who we're not really going to care about, because they could try to do a sequel to this movie, and they probably are, but it's going to be exactly like Lost World. They have the eggs. They're going to probably bring them to America. It will be really stupid. So even though I got the sense this movie was a standalone movie, they should have really embraced that more, and they should have focused on one group of characters who you care fitfully about throughout the movie, and then just kind of be like, okay, the movie's over. You don't need to know what happens next. But they, like, in the end, they gave us, like, Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt having a romance. I don't care. The kids going home. I don't care. Actually, well, maybe a little bit. But the thing is, though, there are some characters that, if they develop them more, are pretty likable. Chris Pratt's character, he's kind of like this stoic Indiana Jones type. You've seen him a bunch of times. Chris Pratt's so likable. Like, he could play most characters, and he'd be great. Bryce Dallas Howard, she plays kind of the dowdy workaholic, but she's good. She does a good job. Jake Johnson, I usually hate that guy. He annoys the crap out of me. But he was really likable in this. He played like the kind of Goldblum-y character. And the person next to him, there's a really funny scene later in the movie between them. They all have pretty good chemistry, and I think that if you had made this movie about one set of characters, maybe like the employees of the island trying to get away from the trying to warn people, get off the island, focus on Pratt, focus on Howard, focus on Johnson, that would have been a lot better. And I think if they had just not gone off the kids at all, because they don't add much to the plot, if you'd given us relatable enough characters, we could have worked with it. And about making the movie shorter, I think if you did that kind of a setup, you could have done something like Mad Max Fury Road, where it's you're telling one story and you're not really flipping around, you're just going for it. You're putting everyone on the edge of their seats and going with it. And I think that they should have done that with the employees of the park. That should have been the story. And actually, having watched Stanley Kubrick's movie Full Metal Jacket a few days ago, there's one camera technique in that movie that I think would have worked really well in this film, which is when in the Vietnam section of that movie, Kubrick follows the soldiers, kind of documentary style, almost as if he's giving the audience kind of a view into the war like they're one of the soldiers. And I like that shot a lot because it really makes you feel part of everything. I think if they'd done some shots like that, or kind of given the audience a surrogate character so they could kind of feel like they're part of the action in this scenario for the employees getting off the island like that I'm suggesting, I think that would have made this movie significantly more entertaining. I think that would have really just put you in the shoes of the characters. So, in my view, make the movie about an hour and a half, pack all you can get into it, no boring scenes, and give it a focus on only a few characters. Moving on to my next point. Put Jeff Goldblum in this movie! Okay, so Jeff Goldblum, what can you say? I feel like everyone either loves him or hates him, because he's everywhere now. I remember when he was on Portlandia the first few times, he was great. Then he started to show up too much, kind of got annoying. He's on all the debit card things. But the reason why Jeff Goldblum is around still is because I think he's a likable stage presence. And people argue because I think that was Spielberg's mindset when he cast him in the second Jurassic Park movie, even though he did jack shit in that movie. But I think he works in this movie because you're missing kind of the Goldblum character. In the first movie, Goldblum worked so well because he mixed comedy and drama and different kinds of comedy. He was snarky, yet he was goofy. But also, he wasn't a Jar Jar Binks. He wasn't just comedic relief. He was able to do the drama and suspense well. You could take him seriously when you had to. Ian Malcolm is a very good character for that reason. And I feel like with the way these writers work in Hollywood now, they could very easily insert him in the movie. Be like, okay, conspiracy theorist, look, Ian Malcolm, yay! And you know what? You could get past that he was in it. And I think with the characters in a movie, if you develop them more, if you got rid of that romance between Chris Pratt and Bryce Howard, you could have Chris Pratt's kind of tough guy working off Goldblum. You could have Jake Johnson, who actually kind of reminded me of Goldblum in the first movie, working off him. You could have Bryce Dallas Howard working off him, with kind of her kind of by the book mindset, and Jeff Goldblum's he's kind of by the book as well, but he's obviously more humane about it. He's kind of knowledgeable. And, with the employees, it's a younger group of actors. If you put a Goldblum type person in that movie, you could kind of make him the leader, or he could kind of be like the older one. You could make some jokes for the adults. I just feel like whereas in the Lost World he didn't work, Goldblum's presence was missed in this movie, and there wasn't a lot of comic relief in this movie, actually. I'm kind of glad about it, I guess, because they could have really messed it up. But Chris Pratt was a little more serious than I expected, and I think someone like Goldblum would have been just the right amount of comedy. And I think whereas he wasn't good in The Lost World, he wasn't very good, I think his presence was missed in here. So I think they should have hired Goldblum to play Ian Malcolm in this, but that's just me. So moving on to my fourth point. More practical effects on the dinosaurs and more CGI on the extravagant stuff. So, what a lot of people don't actually know or remember about the first Jurassic Park is that there's a lot of practical effects in that movie. What is often best remembered about the first Jurassic Park is that it introduced CGI to film-going audiences. Because that scene when they're getting out of the truck, and they see, I need like a 10-year-old to help me out with these dinosaur names. They see the dinosaurs with the long necks and their CGI. That effect still looks great now, but when it came out, I'm sure it was like, whoa, what is that? Never seen that before. But a lot of the scenes when the dinosaurs are encroaching upon them, like when the dinosaur puts its eye up to the truck, the Jeep, when it's chasing them in a bunch of scenes, that's all animation. Not animation, that's all puppetry. That's Stan Winston's animatronics. And I think, honestly, in my mind, first Jurassic Park is a million times scarier than this movie, which is really cool because it came out in 1992, so that's impressive. Actually, maybe it was 90. It was in the early 90s, but in this movie, I felt like the budget for this movie kind of went to the wrong things. The CGI is good, but we've seen this CGI before, and maybe that sounds annoying because I know you can't expect it to be as good as the first Jurassic Park. But I feel like a lot more of those close-up shots of dinosaurs could have been done using that same kind of animatronics. And I think that would have made it felt a lot more real and a lot more scary. And if you'd had the CGI be more on the running shots, like with the velociraptors running in the movie, that was good CGI. If you kept it more like that, that would have worked. But I think when you do have the potential to do more practical effects, it just feels... I don't know why they would do CGI. I know it's cheaper. I guess that's part of it, but I just feel like they used their budget on the wrong things. With that being said, I do think there are ways to do CGI in this movie, but on different things. So in about 2013, I bet a bunch of people will remember that, there was a pitch trailer that was leaked online for Jurassic World. I think some people thought it was fake, but I think it ended up being confirmed that it was real. But in the trailer, which is obviously very rough, it's rough CGI, it's a pitch trailer. It doesn't really feature the plot that ended up in this movie, but it's kind of similar. So there's this, the flying dinosaur it's perched on a lifeguard thing on a beach where there's a bunch of people on the island just surfing, enjoying themselves. And he comes down, he swoops down, and he takes this one surfer, and he's flying with him up in the air, throwing him around. There's other dinosaurs. And it's awesome. I really like that trailer. Yes, it looks almost kind of like a PlayStation game, but it uses the CGI to do fun things. It takes the environment and makes it look grand. It makes you say wow, as annoying as the wow factor is. And I feel like with a setting like Kauai that they used for the movie, I think that they just could have used some CGI to do some stuff that they couldn't have done with practicals, make it extravagant, do some aerial things, do some, just take what you can't do with just a normal camera, do what you did in the pitch trailer. Actually, a good example of how they did things right was there was just one small scene in the movie which I actually thought was going to be what the pitch trailer was based on. It wasn't, but they take this one woman and they're like swooping up in the air with her, and then the sea monster comes and eats the flying dinosaur, not monster, dinosaur, and eats the woman with it. And it's cool CGI, and it's in the water, and it's going around, and that's the kind of stuff I wish they'd done more of with the CGI and more practicals on the land dinosaurs. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that. And so, moving on to my last point. Aside from the theme music, B.D. Wong and The Island cut all ties to the original Jurassic Park movie. Yeah, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but a lot of the references to the first Jurassic Park in this movie felt very coy and kind of cutesy to me. Like, they had the little DNA thing that was like, I was born in the lab. Like, you remember from the first one, they had the kids find a Jeep from the first Jurassic Park movie. Hell, even the Tyrannosaurus Rex from the first movie is even in this. Actually, what's funny about that scene is I kind of wish that I would have found it hilarious if they just let that Tyrannosaurus Rex out and then it just ate Bryce Dallas Howard, because it's a very movie-ish scene. Like, you can get behind the fact that the Tyrannosaurus Rex is helping them, but it makes no sense. That dinosaur should just eat all of them. But I'm getting distracted. I mean, I love the theme music for this movie. I'll say that. That is something I'm glad they kept in. They could play that over Chris Pratt eating a sandwich, and I'd love it. But and instead of enhancing the movie, I thought a lot of the references to the original alienated me from it. It made me realize I'm not watching Jurassic Park, the better movie. And for a movie that I think they should have really, it felt standalone, but they should have done it more standalone-ish. And they really just should have, it was a homage to the original, but they should have made it just that. They didn't need to do such a homage that they had like the kids in it and stuff. That was just like, oh, they were in the first one, let's put them in here. They should have just made it like a homage to fun action movies from the 70s and 90s and stuff. And they just didn't need any of those references. Like, having B.D. Wong was fine. You need a familiar face, I guess. His character made sense. He's a pretty good actor. But I think it really takes away from the movie. It makes it feel less like it's its own thing and more like it's just a cash-in. And I feel like it had a number of good ideas, so I feel like the references didn't really destroy it, but they bugged me. I just didn't think they were that conducive to a good film. So, with all this being said, Jurassic World is a pretty good movie. It's, if you saw Godzilla like I did, and you were really disappointed because you were expecting something great, it's kind of like the good spectrum on that scale. I think I was talking to someone on the Young Folks who said something just like that. Not stealing what you're saying, just feel the same way. Because I had really low expectations for this, and it exceeded them somewhat. It was pretty good. It could have been a lot worse. That's all I can say. It could have been much, much worse. And if you're looking for a fun summer action movie, see Mad Max Fury Road. But, I love that movie, but it's not for everyone. If you're looking for, like, a general appeal summer movie, see this movie. It's fun. You'll be satisfied. It's